Hi everyone, Julie here. I'm going to go through the teacher data notebook. This is part of my resource on data success binders. There are two components to the data success binders, the student success binders, which are the meat of this resource because we're trying to hold students accountable for collecting their own data and understanding how they're doing. And then there's the other part that is the teacher data notebook, so teachers can track how their class as a whole is doing and progressing as the year goes on in all subjects. One note is I used to do this all in one huge binder and it became quite overwhelming and quite big as the year went on. So I did find it much easier to split up the data notebooks by subject. That way I could carry them wherever I needed or just take one home if I needed to take one home, or if I had a meeting, I just had the pieces I needed so it wasn't this overwhelming huge binder. I split them up so I had language arts, which was reading and writing together, and then math and science together. So when you purchase this resource, you will get a zip file, and inside the zip folder you'll see an editable version and a PDF version. The editable version is a PowerPoint, and you can edit some pieces of that PowerPoint. There will be spots for you where you can enter student names, you can change out standards and tweak some things so it works for you and your class in case you have different standards. There's also a PDF version. This is just print and go, use it as is. I'm going to open that one to show you. Inside the PDF version, you will see, again, two files. There's the 4th grade student data binder, which is the meat of this resource because we're trying to get students to track most of their data. There's also the teacher data binder component, which I will walk you through right now. So I'm going to open that up. It starts with a cover sheet here. You can print this off and use it as your notebook cover if you'd like. There's editing instructions. If you decide to use the editable version, you can look at these instructions, and if you want the cute fonts and whatnot, you're welcome to download those through these links. Those are free to download for you to use. If you're using the PDF version, though, you don't need to worry about any of that. All right, so the first component of the teacher data binder is the conference calendar. I do print off 2 copies of this. I print off a copy for, actually 3 copies now that I think about it. I print off a copy for reading conferences, for writing conferences, and then for math conferences. And what I do here is I just put the students' names. I don't handwrite them, I just type them in, and you can do that in the editable version and then copy and paste so you have the students' names in there all the time. And then you can just plan for the month who you're going to meet with every day. I would do like 2 conferences per day. So I would usually fill in, sometimes I'd do 3. I'd usually fill in 2 students on most days, but leave some blank spaces. That way I had some area to fill students in if I needed to fill in students as we went. We have those for every single month. No other notes were going in here, just who I was meeting with so I could keep track of that. Make sure I hit everyone because we all know conferences, you forget who you're meeting with. This is a way to keep it organized so you make sure you hit all of your students 1 or 2 times per month. Next is the plans, the small group plans. This was probably one of the largest parts of my data notebook. I did phonics groups, I did reading groups, I did math groups, so we had a lot of small group plans we had to do. This was just an easy way for me to track who was in the group each week, and then I just write little notes about what I was noticing while I met with my groups. So I had my phonics groups, I had my strategy groups, that's reading strategy skills, like if we were doing a main idea group, they would go here and we do a main idea group and I'd pull students for that. And then guided reading notes went here. And this is a week-long plan for guided reading. Here's math group plans, and that of course would go in the math binder. And then just a general calendar. This was just so I could jot down events when we didn't have school, or if there was something that would happen when we wouldn't have class. I would put that all in the calendar, and I usually did make a copy of that for each binder, so I had a master calendar in each binder. Again, if you want to use the editable version, you can type in what you need to here and then just print it off 2 times. Okay, class reading data. This is where I was tracking class progress throughout the year. So again, editable version, you can type your students' names right down here, and you just graph where they are at the start of the year. I usually color-coded this, so students who, when I started, I always did rainbow for some reason. It just made it easy as a visual for me to see. So I started with red at the beginning of the year, and I'd color where all the students were, either based on DRA or Fountas and Pinnell levels, and I would color code it here. And then the next month, I'd use orange and color code where the students were the next month. Hopefully, most of them did go up, and then continued to go. Every month, I'd added new color to show student progress in the class overall growth. It was very visual and helpful. Next, we had words per minute. I did do a lot of fluency practice, especially when I was teaching 2nd grade. So we did constant fluency assessments when we did reading conferences, and I would track that here by students as well to show their fluency progress. Same way with the colors too, to show growth. Here we have their stamina. We did monthly stamina checks as a class where I would time students to see how long they could read for, and actually watch them to see how long their stamina was, and then they would graph it individually in their binder, but I would also keep a class record of that so I could see where all the students were and how they were progressing. Finally, I have graphs here for every single Common Core comprehension standard. We did have to track based on the standards we were teaching. And I found it helpful too to see where the students all fell in the red range and the orange, yellow, green, if I needed to reteach, if we need to revisit again at another point in the year. That graph was really helpful. Again, these are editable in the editable version, so if you need to change out the skills, you can do that as well. Go through a lot of those, all the standards. Okay, whoops. Go back up here. Okay, then we get into class math data. This again will be in the math binder. This is a 4th grade data binder, so it has multiplication and division math fact class progress. Of course, in the earlier grades, it's addition and subtraction. I did do regular fluency math tests with my kids, and we would track them on their individual graphs in their binder, as well as me as a whole, so I could have the big picture. I would use a lot of these graphs for RTI as well for students. Again, we have them for every domain in math. Those kind of quickly. And that is it for math. And then we get into the class writing data. Again, the graphs for each genre of writing. And I did a rubric score of up to 6 because that was the standard of what I did. And that is it.